Welcome to this explainer on the Wired Differently field guide. Today, we're going to unpack a concept that honestly might completely change how you view yourself and your interactions with the world. We're looking at why relying on internal validation, which a lot of folks mistake for arrogance or being cold, is actually a massive strength, not a character flaw. If you've ever felt like you're just not operating on the same social frequency as everybody else, well, this analysis is going to be incredibly validating for you. So, let's jump right in.
I want you to start by thinking about a core, maybe even painful question, something you might have wrestled with for years. Why does your independence unsettle people? I mean, seriously, why does just existing as a grounded, self-assured person seem to cause this unexplainable friction with others? You haven't done anything to them, you haven't insulted anyone, but there's just this undeniable tension in the room.
The source material sets up the answer perfectly. It says, when your worth is not for sale, people who trade in validation have nothing to offer you. That is where the friction begins. That's a powerful thought, right? The crucial takeaway here is that this friction isn't about anything you're actively doing wrong. It's a fundamental clash in how you, versus the majority of people, actually source your self-worth. Think of it like an invisible currency exchange, and you simply aren't accepting their tender.
Section 1. The Internal Framework. Built inside out. So there's a really clear contrast between two completely opposite ways of moving through life. First, you've got the default operating system. Most people construct their self-worth from the outside in. They monitor reactions constantly, they seek approval, and their identity actually kind of shifts depending on who happens to be in the room with them. And hey, this isn't necessarily a flaw, it's just the default for most folks. But then you have the internal framework. This is the minority who are internally anchored. Their direction doesn't need a consensus. We're talking about a load-bearing foundation built over years of hard experience, accountability, and, frankly, choosing the harder road. They aren't just faking independence. They genuinely do not feel that gravitational pull toward external approval that everyone else feels.
Moving on to Section 2. The Unintentional Mirror. Exposing Fragility.
Let's look at what actually happens when these two operating systems collide in everyday life. See, an internally driven person unconsciously acts as a mirror. Just by being yourself, you accidentally expose the fragility and approval-seeking behaviors of everyone around you. And wow, this profound discomfort usually manifests in defensive, totally illogical attacks. Professionally, maybe you face deep skepticism even when you have clear evidence of your capability. Personally, it might look like subtle, undermining remarks designed specifically to make you feel insecure. Or socially, you might experience quiet exclusion or unsolicited doubt about your choices. Basically, you've become an unasked-for measuring stick. And frankly, people deeply resent being measured against a standard they never consented to. It's literally like being the only sober person at a really chaotic party.
As the guide points out so powerfully, they are not reacting to who you are, they are reacting to what you remind them of in themselves. Let that sink in for a second. These reactions aren't based on your actual performance or the facts. They are just defensive mechanisms against their own exposed fragility. It is absolutely vital to separate their reaction from your reality.
All right, Section 3, the psychology of projection, unresolved qualities.
To really understand the hidden psychological gears turning beneath the surface of all these unfair criticisms, we have to talk about projection. What is it? Well, projection is the consistent, patterned, and often completely unconscious psychological act of taking your own unresolved qualities and placing them onto someone else. Grounding ourselves in this psychological fury makes everything make sense. The source material tells us that people don't attack things they're indifferent to. No, they target the exact trait that exposes whatever heavy baggage they happen to be carrying.
The specificity of an attack actually reveals the attacker's own wound. Notice the pattern here. If someone is secretly insecure about their own intelligence, they are going to find a way to question your competence. If they abandoned their own ambition years ago, they'll ridicule your ambition today. Someone who lacks inner discipline, they'll call your high standards excessive or annoying. And someone who is entirely dependent on social approval will absolutely label your calm independence as coldness or arrogance. See? It explains why the criticism so often feels strangely personal and incredibly precise. It's not an assessment of you at all, it's a confession about them, just delivered in the language of judgment.
Which brings us to Section 4, the control dynamic, outer control.
So how do insecure individuals try to manage the discomfort you cause them? Well, people who lack inner control will instinctively reach for outer control. When they can't regulate their own emotions, they try to manage yours. The text offers this brilliant metaphor for it. Trying to control someone who is internally grounded is like gripping a bar of soap. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips. Controllers attempt to manage you through pressure, criticism, manufactured doubt, but these tools just completely fail on internally anchored people.
It's crucial to understand this feedback loop of destabilization. Here's how it plays out. Step 1. The controller applies social pressure or criticism, fully expecting you to fold. Step 2. The grounded target, that's you, does not shrink. You don't seek reassurance. You just refuse to adjust your identity based on that pressure. Which leads to step 3. The controller realizes their usual tools simply aren't working. Every squeeze meant to assert dominance only proves that the game they're playing doesn't apply to you. And this silent demonstration is incredibly destabilizing for them.
Now this brings up an incredibly fascinating question. Why does your silence threaten them so much? Why does simple composure create such intense disorientation for a controller?
The field guide offers this really powerful insight. The most powerful response is often the one that never arrives. Think about that. Grounded silence, hearing a comment, understanding exactly what it was designed to do, and then deliberately choosing not to give them the engineered reaction. It leaves the attacker holding a wound that just didn't land. The big reaction they desperately needed to feel powerful never comes, and they are left completely disarmed.
But make no mistake, the non-reaction is not indifference, it is mastery. It means you've done enough internal work that external noise no longer has automatic access to your emotional state. And honestly, there is nothing more threatening to a controller, someone whose power depends entirely on manipulating emotions, than realizing they have absolutely no access to your frequency.
Moving to our final section, Section 5. Keep your architecture intact, a masterclass.
Now that we understand the mechanics of all this, we really need to reframe these traits. They aren't social liabilities. They're a masterclass in resilience, independence from validation, navigating conflict with complete composure, absorbing immense pressure without losing your direction, having a sense of self-worth that literally cannot be borrowed or taken away. These are not threatening traits, folks. They are highly aspirational qualities. The supreme irony here is that the people attacking you are the exact people who would benefit the absolute most from studying how you operate. It's a free masterclass. If only their own projection didn't block the humility they'd need to actually learn from you.
But there is a very real danger here. The tragedy is letting their projection become the ceiling on your potential. The saddest version of this entire dynamic is when a grounded person actually starts believing the undermining, when they start shrinking themselves down just to fit into the comfort zones of other people. Make no mistake, the people doing the undermining are never the ones who pay that cost. Only you do, if you believe them.
So, it is absolutely vital to internalize this next point. You are not the problem in rooms designed for smaller versions of people. Your uncommon wiring is not a flaw. You are not too much, and you are not difficult. The friction you feel is merely a byproduct of your internal framework rubbing up against their external dependence. It is absolutely not your job to fix their insecurity. The empowering takeaway from Wired Differently is this: keep the architecture intact, keep moving. The rest is noise. The critics are going to keep critiquing, the projectors will keep projecting, and the controllers will keep reaching for you. Your only job is to let the reactions land and roll right off without leaving a mark. Just continue building, thinking, and growing on your own timeline.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to carry with you. Will you let their noise dismantle your architecture, or will you let the soap keep slipping? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me today. Trust your framework, keep building from the inside out, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.